Alanna the Lioness is one of my favorite one-page heroines. She's sensitive and strong, quick-tempered and brusque, caring and occasionally soft, and she knows how to handle herself in a fight. Her stamp on the Tortall universe by Tamora is important and ever-present, and her stamp on my child and teenhood is just as present in my memory. She knows what she wants, and she's willing to fight for it. I love making costumes to represent specific moments of a piece, and for this Alanna costume I drew inspiration specifically from a scene in the 4th book of Alanna's quartet, Lioness Rampant. There's a scene where she is accompanying Thyet to a grand ball to introduce her diplomatically to the country, and to the prince, King Jonathan. Also to reintroduce Alanna as the first Lady Knight in Generations. Alanna refused to wear a dress for her first appearance and she did some spoilery things, so the seamstress and she settled on a compromise. I quote, "It was a shirt and tunic, with soft full breeches instead of hose. The tunic was longer than usual, coming to the knee, yet splits in the sides to the waist ensured the wearer's freedom of movement. Those breeches are later described as grey silk, and it's referenced that her tunic and possibly shirt are likely black. But I took some liberties with the colors and fabrics. I'd like to imagine that at some courtly functions after time of mourning for Jonathan's father, that she wore the same full breeches, but with a tunic that matched her colors and field. Oh, and say hi to my friend Faithful here.
Hello, people on the internet."
He's feeling a little tired, but he's hanging in there. Frankly, he finds his costume breakdown boring. For the loose breeches, I used the Megan Nielsen Flint trousers, which have a high waist, wide-legged vintage feel, and have a side front button closure that is accessible through the left pocket. Oh, and I love this pattern. These specific ones are made out of a cotton linen blend that I dyed using fiber reactive dyes to the gunmetal shade you see here. The tunic and shirt are both altered versions of the onyx top by Paprika Patterns. For the shirt, I lightly raised the neckline, added the front slit, and then lengthened the sleeves so I could add in long cuffs. To fasten those cuffs, I used some snaps, and then hid the snaps with buttons with shields on them. The shirt is a thin, undyed cotton lawn, and is edged with the gold bias binding throughout. Oh, and I did not remember to hem it, because I figured it would always be tucked into trousers, so that it wouldn't matter. I should probably hem it one of these days. And then the tunic retained the normal neckline from the original pattern, but I removed the sleeves and used a half lining to make the edges clean. Then I lengthened the hem to about my knees-ish. The tunic itself is made of a lightweight rayon cotton blend and is edged on the inside with a similar gold bias tape to that of the shirt. I used to have access to a professional embroidery machine where I made the patch. It's the same vector design as my shield, which I'll show you more of in a second. The patch itself is hand-stitched to the tunic, just in case I want to use the tunic for another costume in the future. So the belt, which I remember to put on halfway through this video shoot, was originally used for my Susan Pevensey costume and is a leather belt painted white and ivory with a shield buckle. For the hair, I've now worn it 2 ways for this costume, both loose and also in a single French braid. In hindsight, I like the look of the braid better because it stays put and out of the way, and that's what Alanna would like. So that's the outfit. It's now time to talk about the props. I'll talk about Faithful before he runs off to go find Raoul.
Rude. I'll be here as long as you need.
I'll be quick, Faithful. I promise. So I put off finding my furry friend until the last minute before a con, and at the end of my budget. So I had to choose a stuffed animal that looked more like a kitten and less like a properly grown cat. In hindsight, it's probably a good choice, because I am a very short person, and a larger cat stuffed animal would more likely fall off my shoulders. And of course, no stuffed cat was going to have Faithful's iconic purple eyes, so I lightly painted on irises of this metallic purple acrylic from Folk Art. So Faithful attaches to my costume with a square of amber fabric left over from another project, and so he's attached to the fabric and then safety pinned to the top of my shirt, actually both the shirt and the tunic. Then I've got a necklace that I couldn't find for the actual shoot, but it's important to Alanna's story. So she was given an ember from a fire in book 2, and she wore it around her neck for more than half the series. So when I knew I was making this costume, I remembered a random thrift store purchase, and when I found it, I knew I hit the jackpot. It looks just like how I pictured the ember when reading the book. As for Alanna's shield and lightning, her sword, these were made with a combination of laser cutting and also a couple of less mechanical finishing techniques. The shield is a combination of a 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch plywood. Different pieces were laid on top of each other, as you can see with this handy little diagram. And after gluing them together with some wood glue, I decided that it looked a little bit too clean. The edges were too perfectly perpendicular and very blocky. It looked very machine generated. So I purchased some wood filler and painstakingly reverse beveled the edges for both the center lioness motif and the rim of the shield itself. And then I sanded and repeated. Filled in with some wood filler, sanded. Wood filler, sanding. Wood filler, sanding. Wood filler, and then more sanding. I'm guessing you get the picture. For the braces that are on the back that help me hold on to the shield, I drilled in some strips of leather from my scrap stash. The sword is a combination of a plywood handle and a balsa wood blade. I used balsa wood for the blade because I knew I could bend it carefully around the dowel without breaking, so I did just that with a large number of clamps and glue and patience. I sanded that down so that I could get rid of some of the thickness around the edges. For the handle, I cut round pieces out of scrap plywood, as well as a tiered hilt that also got the wood filler treatment. There was a lot of wood filler as part of the costume. The hilt and the handle were then slipped over top of the dowel and glued into place. And then more sanding and more finishing occurred, and then I finally got around to painting it. Oh, and for the end of the sword, I managed to get a light purple crystal to put into the butt of the hilt. This is part of the reason why I carry super glue to every con and every day. This jewel pops out all the time. You can look at it cross-eyed and it will decide to not stay in place. Even while I was filming this, the jewel popped out at least 3 times. So that's my Alanna costume. I hope you have a lovely week, and I will see you next Monday with another costume post. So mote it be.